Sweet Decay. Camille was beautiful, and her pastries were even more so. Customers lined up outside her little French bakery in the heart of a bustling American city, entranced by her delicate eclairs, her cloud-like croissants, her tarts glazed to perfection. They whispered that she had a gift, that every bite melted on the tongue like a kiss. What they didn't know was that Camille had another gift. Late at night, when the ovens had cooled and the street outside was silent, she worked alone in the kitchen, her slender fingers steady as she uncorked a tiny vial. Inside was a liquid so clear, so pure, so cloudless. A drop was enough to slow a heartbeat. 2, and the body would never wake again. Her secret ingredient blended seamlessly into syrups and creams. No bitter aftertaste, no discoloration, just sweetness. She told herself she wasn't a killer. She was an artist. Each confection was her canvas, and her customers, unwitting and eager, were the audience. Some mornings, she chose at random who would be her masterpiece. A wealthy businessman, a gossiping socialite, a smug critic who claimed her croissants were too buttery. By afternoon, the local newspapers carried whispers of sudden fainting, unexplained deaths, hearts that simply stopped. Nobody ever connected them to the cheerful little bakery with its striped awning and golden sign, glowing warm against the city's cold sidewalks. Camille always smiled when she read the obituaries. One autumn evening, a young man came into her bakery just before closing. He was quiet, almost shy, with dark eyes that lingered on her face more than the glass case. "First time here?" she asked, brushing flour from her cheek. He nodded. "Everyone says you're unforgettable." Something in his tone unsettled her. Still, she prepared him a raspberry tart, glossy with glaze. With deliberate grace, she slipped in 2 drops from her vial. The man thanked her, paid in cash, and sat at a corner table. He took a slow bite, his lips curved, but he didn't swallow. Instead, he produced a small glass vial from his coat pocket and held it up. Identical to hers. Camille froze. "You think you're the only one?" he asked softly. His voice carried an amusement edged with cruelty. He set her tart down, untouched, and leaned forward. "Your reputation is spreading, Camille, among people like us." Her pulse quickened. She hadn't known they were others. "We savor the same art," he whispered, his gaze never leaving hers. "But when 2 artists paint on the same canvas, one must be erased." Before she could move, he slid her untouched tart back across the table. "Eat," he said. The bell above the bakery door jingled as he left, vanishing into the night. Camille sat frozen, staring at the tart, her reflection warping in its glossy glaze. The poison was hers, yet the bite mark belonged to him. Her throat tightened. A strange bitterness coated her tongue, though she hadn't eaten a thing. Panic flared as her stomach lurched, heat flooding her chest. She staggered, choking, and realized too late he hadn't needed her tart at all. He had already touched her, brushed her flour-dusted hand when she served him. Camille collapsed into the tiles, her vision blurring. Above her, trays of untouched pastries gleamed in the faint light. sweet monuments to her art. By morning, the line outside stretched around the block. The delivery boy found her sprawled on the kitchen floor, lips blue, eyes wide and glassy, her hand still outstretched toward the counter where the tart waited. Her customers never got their pastries that day. But across the street, hidden in the crowd, the young man watched, smiling faintly, as though savoring the aftertaste of something divine. The last slice. The sign above the cafe read, "Harrison's Pies," in cheerful curling letters. Inside, the warm scent of golden pastry and savory filling made the little space feel welcoming, a haven from the drizzle outside. Regulars nodded to Harrison as he slid steaming pies onto the counter, their crust glistening under the soft light. No one noticed the way his eyes lingered too long when a new customer entered. They didn't hear the soft clink of chains behind the kitchen door, or the muffled murmurs that stopped whenever someone approached. Harrison prided himself on his ingredients. He sourced them fresh, local, impeccable quality, he told customers with a grin. "Nobody beats a proper meat pie," he'd say. And people believed him because his pies were exceptional, rich, savory, oddly comforting, with a subtle hint of sweetness they couldn't quite name. Late at night, the cafe fell silent, except for the rhythmic thump of a cleaver and Harrison's humming. He worked meticulously, skinning, seasoning, and shaping each pie as though crafting art. His hands were steady, precise, almost reverent. Sometimes he would stand in the empty cafe, gazing at the pies cooling on the rack. "Perfect," he'd whisper to himself, touching the golden crust as if it were alive. The townfolk loved his cafe. Children begged for extra slices. Couples lingered over coffee and pie, oblivious to the tiny scars on the walls, the faint stains on the floorboards that Harrison scrubbed away before dawn. Even the occasional missing person was shrugged off. They probably left town. No one suspected otherwise. One rainy evening, a stranger came in. She ordered a slice of the special, humming softly as she sat near the window. Harrison watched her from behind the counter, something dark stirring in his chest. He brought the steaming pie with a smile, but she looked at him strangely, her eyes sharp. "Do you make all these yourself?" she asked, tilting her head. "Of course," he said. "Every pie, fresh ingredients, top secret recipe." She took a bite and paused, savoring the flavor with a slow, knowing smile. "You have a unique touch," she said, "like you know your ingredients intimately." Harrison's hand froze on the counter. "Why, yes," he said carefully. Her smile widened. "I'll be back," she said softly, disappearing into the rain. That night, Harrison cleaned the cafe and lined the pies on the rack, but something was wrong. One pie's crust shimmered with faint scratches, tiny impressions in the dough. He leaned closer. Letters. Names. The names of the missing townfolk, etched into the golden crust as though pressed from the inside. He wiped the dough, thinking it was a trick of the light. But the names returned, longer this time, forming words he didn't recognize. "And yours? Soon." Harrison staggered back, heart pounding. The ovens hummed low, almost whispering. Every pie on the rack now bore names, some fresh, some faded, some his own. The scent of the pastry was metallic, alive, accusing. He understood with a chilling clarity. The pies weren't just food. They were remembering. They were recording. And they had been watching him all along. When the stranger returned the next day, Harrison didn't need to speak. He barely breathed. The pies hummed softly around him, names writhing in the crust, and he realized the recipes weren't his anymore. He was just another name waiting to appear. An Artist's Hands by the Prowler. I'm an artist, not musical or with paints as you may think when you hear artist. No, in my case it is the field of culinary arts. Named Newcomer of the Year, Fastest Rising Chef of the Year, 2 Michelin star restaurants, all to my name before the age of 24. And it's all thanks to 2 very important things: my hands. Every artist has to rely on their tools, be it a brush or an instrument, and every true great artist has to have an extraordinary ability to produce beauty from their instrument of choice. My hands, my instruments of beauty, know exactly how to make the proper cut, the proper stroke, the proper chop of whatever ingredient it's working with. My hands bring bliss to the masses, lines out the door of every restaurant, food critics literally eating out of the palms of my hands. My latest endeavor, a speakeasy, jazz noir, restaurant nightclub called the Night Owl, has taken the city by storm. An abandoned building lost to time, supposedly haunted and neglected by the city. It was scheduled for demolition. I saved it, and now it's the hot spot of the entire city, with lines down the block trying to get a table, and reservations booked for the entire year in advance. It's all because of these hands. Whatever they touch turns to gold. Because of my success, everyone wants to flock to me, hoping for a little success for themselves. Resumes non-stop hit me daily. Thirsty souls wanting to work under me, thinking they can learn what they can, become the hot sous chef, the top assistant chef, to the hottest chef in the country, and right off to their own stardom. I can't blame anyone for thinking this way. Stepping stones is the name of the game in this business, and this business is cutthroat. I did my due diligence when it came to picking my staff. The back of the house, of course. But I didn't neglect the front of the house either. Everyone at the Night Owl is the best at what they do. They're also cutthroat, and they are hungry, just as I was when I broke into the business. A particular individual who is the personification of all 3 combined traits would be my executive chef, Willard Carnes, an individual with 10 times the ambition I had at his age, which is quite scary, if I'm being honest. 18 years old, fresh out of the culinary school of France, top of his class and all that bullshit. 18 and thinks he's the second coming, the next star, the best of the best. I saw myself in him, at least a part of me. You can say that's why I hired him right on the spot. It's been 5 months. the length of the night owl's existence. We're all still fresh here. Young Willard, in that time, has already started to make a name for himself. A few of the culinary rags wanting to know who the protege to the hottest chef on the scene is. Who's the next rising star? And Willard is all too glad to let people know it. He follows me constantly, sticking to me like glue every service, trying to gain every ounce of knowledge, needing to be the best, wanting to surpass me in fame and notoriety, and having the cockiness to inform me of it. I must admit, I do take pleasure in knocking him down a peg or two when he goes off on one of his greatest tangents. This is my world. I don't care how great you think you are, how much culinary talent you possess. You will never have the things that matter, the things that make me great. I raise my arms and show him my hands. You don't have these, which make me great. Therefore, you can never be as great as me. He doesn't appreciate when I tell him that. Oh well, the truth hurts. The tension has been high as of late. The night owl is completely booked nightly. Stress is rampant, as the kitchen is constantly swamped. I'm trying to put out award-winning food with every plate I send out, and I notice everything. There's nothing that escapes my attention. Willard tries to one-up me at every turn, and he's becoming dangerous and unpredictable. I notice every night on the line with him next to me, a slip of the blade mid-chop, an extra ounce of pressure and strength while filleting a choice piece of meat, overflowing pots of boiling water, a slight case of clumsiness with handling of hot grease. His happy little accidents, they're called around the kitchen. He thinks he'll take over everything with my untimely demise. I know it. When I bring these things up, people just brush it aside, like I'm paranoid, thinking I'm afraid I'll lose the limelight to the next big thing. I'm alone in this world. I have to do everything in my power to stay vigilant and watch my own ass. I swear, if I catch that upstart even looking at me strangely, next time I'm sticking a rustic, crusty baguette right up his ass. The bullshit continued for another month, until the fateful night in question. We had just closed down for the night, after once again another chaotic dinner service, and began the continued preparation of the upcoming mayoral charity dinner, which was being held at the Night Owl in 3 days' time, a dinner we have been planning for weeks. All that was left was the finishing touches, so all that was needed was me and Willard. I was putting together the entree and messing around with multiple recipes in my mind, and only needed Willard there to help me finish it. I admit, since we were in the closing stages of preparing this event, the stress had become quite extreme. I was feeling it. My vision for this dinner was almost complete, and I just wanted it to finally all be over with. Admittedly, with my mind and focus elsewhere on other things, my usual vigilance towards Willard's every sneaky move was interrupted. And with people like that, a shark like Willard, you can't ever afford to lose your concentration. Not a break for one fucking solitary moment. I was standing in the doorway of the walk-in freezer, grabbing a couple of steaks for my idea for the entree. I was only halfway inside the freezer for a moment. As I grabbed the steaks with my one hand, my other hand was holding on to the outside frame of the freezer door. In my distraction, right as I grabbed the steaks, I heard a loud crunch, followed by an immense, excruciating pain from my other hand, or should I say, where my other hand used to be. The bastard closed that heavy freezer door on my hand, severing it at the wrist. I crumpled to my knees, holding my bloody stump in unbearable pain, when he opened the freezer door and approached me with a raised meat cleaver. I raised my good arm in defense, and with one violent swoop, he took my other hand. My tools, my gifts, my instruments of beauty and art, the two things that brought me greatness were just savagely taken from me. I sat there in shock and pain. Then he finished me off with a cleaver thrust to the head, and that was that. It was my fault. What can I say? I was simply careless. But don't worry. I got my revenge. Remember when I told you the night owl was believed to be haunted? Well, those rumors were 100% true. The spirits in that place are angry. They are vengeful. And it pisses them off when shit happens like it happened to me. Call it karma, call it supernatural, I don't care. Because whatever it is caused me to return. Well, a part of me anyway. Willard disposed of my body like a good killer should. But he was feeling nostalgic, I guess, and decided to take a souvenir. My right hand. When he got home, he jarred it and preserved it and put it on display on his mantle, like a trophy, you could say. Well, that was a big mistake. As he lay sleeping, my possessed hand, hell-bent on revenge, broke out of its jar and slithered its way towards his bed, waking him up with a gentle choke. He struggled and fought my hand around the house until finally throwing it into the fireplace, where he watched it burn and stop moving, thinking it was over. Obviously, he's never seen a horror movie in his life and doesn't know how this possessed revenge shit works. It's not over till he's fucking dead. The hand continued to torment him day and night, showing up in the most unexpected places, driving him mad, pushing him to the edge of insanity. Wherever he went, my hand was sure to follow, not giving him a moment's peace. He was becoming paranoid and tired, never being able to sleep because of fear. His work began to suffer. Being on the line with other chefs, he was constantly paranoid and frightened of the hands of the other chefs, moving around him, not knowing if it was my hand returning to torment him. The night owl was throwing a dinner party one night, for some food critics, I believe. The kitchen was chaotic and busy, as you would imagine. The walk-in freezer door had been open all dinner service, with people going in and out for meats of all kind. One of the sous chefs spilled a pot of boiling water near the freezer door, and before they could say something, Willard walked toward the freezer to grab a steak, slipping and falling to the ground, right at the open freezer door. He barked at the staff that tried to help him up, to get away. He didn't need their help. He could do it himself. He was very sluggish to get up, completely tired and exhausted. The cool floor felt good on his burning skin. In his moment of calm, his guard was now down, no longer paying attention to his surroundings. As he continued to lay there, my hand slithered out from the shadows and moved toward the freezer door that was ajar. Willard heard something and looked up. The last thing he saw was my decayed hand, violently swinging the door closed. He tried screaming, but it was too late. The freezer door slammed onto his outstretched neck, decapitating him mid-scream. My hand slowly crept back to the shadows, and my revenge was complete, proving me right all along. These hands, my hands, could do remarkable, extraordinary things in life and even in death. A taste of silence. Maurice Greer lived for this. A pen, a pad, and the power to crush reputations with a single review. His column, Dining with Greer, had ended more careers than health inspections. Tonight's target was Haven, a trendy, neon-lit bistro tucked in a quiet corner of the city. The chef owner, Marcus Kane, greeted him with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Maurice tore into the menu, tasted the roasted chicken, poked at the limp greens, and scoffed at the cheap wine. By morning, his verdict was online. Overpriced, underwhelming, and soulless. Haven is barely worthy of survival. The bistro's social media drowned in backlash overnight. A week later, a black envelope slid under his door. Inside, a note in stark white ink. Mr. Greer, you were right. I've rebuilt everything. Come back and taste what you should have. You'll never forget it. Marcus Kane. Maurice chuckled. Desperate chefs always begging for redemption. He texted a reply. On my way. Haven was empty. The hum of neon buzzed overhead. Marcus offered a dark cocktail. The liquid glinted like blood. To second chances, Marcus said. Maurice sipped. The taste was strangely addictive, warming him from throat to chest. Marcus disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a matte black platter. He lifted the lid. Inside, charred, glistening meat, smoke curling like a ghost. Maurice's fork hovered, then plunged in. The flavor exploded, smoky, spicy, unforgettable. This, Maurice muttered, this is incredible. Marcus leaned close. I knew you'd find it unforgettable. The warmth in Maurice's chest turned to fire. He stumbled, vision narrowing, hand shaking. His last thought was the irony. He had written about death before. Now, it tasted like this. Marcus whispered, critics think words are harmless, but words can kill reputations, dreams, lives. Tonight, your words meet their reckoning. Maurice crumpled, silent forever. Marcus wiped a plate, humming as he sharpened his knives. Business would recover. The city craved Haven's notoriety. And if another critic dared to speak ill, Marcus Kane would serve them as well. Nothing leaves his kitchen with a bad review, and no one leaves alive.